we bring in a friend who we've known for years and years and years. He's an author, relationship therapist, Dr. R.G. Allen Wilson.
Some expert advice on how we can all talk to them. Joining us now is relationship expert Dr. R.G. Allen Wilson. She's the author of Courageous Conversations Connect. Good morning, R.G.
Good morning. Thanks so much for joining us.
Good morning, Janelle. It's good to be here. Thanks for having me.
And as we mentioned, a lot of people just dealing with anxiety during all of this. What are your suggestions?
Some of the things that we need to remember is that this is temporary. This is temporary inconvenience for long-term gain. And as long as we stay healthy, Janelle, then everything else is recoverable.
Talk to your children about what's happening right now. What are the best ways to do that?
There's some do's and don'ts, right? So you want to tell them that you're going to be here. We're going to be okay. Kids want to know that they're secure and they're safe. So predictability, structure, and consistency. You also want to let them know you have a plan. And even if you don't have a plan, tell them that you're working on one. How did I do that? All right. Good morning, everyone. Woo! TGIF. Thank God it's Friday. This is the Courageous Conversations Connect space where we're having our quarantine talks. And yours truly, is Dr. RG here with our crew, connecting relationships for epic wins. So good morning, IG family. Good morning, Facebook family. Good morning, YouTube family. Thank you all for joining. I see Billy Joe. I see Charla. This is going to be a great conversation. And good morning, Tanya, TGIF. Yes, thank God it's Friday. So we got a great discussion for you in terms of how to deal with anticipatory anxiety, especially with these various municipalities opening back up gradually. There's a lot of anticipatory anxiety out there. So we're going to deal with that, where we've also got some other great engagement for you once we get through our breathing exercise. So listen, I'm glad you're here. I'm glad I'm here. Let's go for it. We're going to have a brief moment for our sponsors and we will be right back. So stay with us. OB. All right. Well, good morning again. This is Dr. RG here for the Courageous Conversations Connect space, where we have our quarantine talks daily at 10 a.m. Oh my goodness. It's so good to be here. I see you, OB. OB is in the house. We love you and we miss you. OB is doing an amazing job for us as our intern, handling things behind the scenes. So we so appreciate her and love her very much. So thank you for joining this morning, OB. Thank you for joining IG family, our YouTube family, our Facebook family. Give me my thumbs up, my smiley faces, and my hearts. Going over to the YouTube page if you have not done that yet, and subscribe to our YouTube page. It's Ask Dr. RG, AskDrArgie, and hit the notification bell so that I got that right? Notification bell so that you can actually get all of our notifications of the different things we're doing. We've got some various content. Morgan's like, no, it's not click the notification button. It's not a button, it's a bell. All right, so I got that right. Also go on over to the Facebook if you're on Facebook and type subscribe in the messenger box. In the messenger box, not this one where the chat is, but the messenger box. And therefore you will get the notifications for our special events and promotions and things like that. Notifications, okay? So there's a couple of things that I want to bring to your attention. Oh my goodness, it's Friday. Tamara's on. I see her. Good. Thank you for joining, Tamara. There's a couple of things I want you all to bring your attention to. This is, I haven't said this enough, but if you all have yet to register for your mail-in ballots or what have you for voting, which is in June, go on over to votespa.com. Votespa.com is still not too late. I think you have up until May 26th to actually do it. So don't wait, do it today. It's really, really simple. And then you get your mail-in ballot and you can mail that in. We have to vote, right? We can't not vote, especially with what's going on. I also want to say happy birthday to Mother Belva Waller. It is her birthday today. And I'll send her a message a little bit later, but I wanted to acknowledge that she has been just a wonderful, amazing, phenomenal woman in the life of our church and has sort of watched me grow up. And while she's sheltering in place, we still have some engagement, if you will, at various times. So I want to wish her a happy birthday, as well as my cousin Jordan Marsh. It's his birthday as well. And there, yours truly, who I'm connected to, the love of my life, his birthday is next Friday, May 22nd. So we're going to have some shifts or some changes in our programming, and therefore we may not be here for his birthday. So if you all can indulge us and wish him happy birthday a week in advance. He likes to celebrate his birthday for the whole month anyway. So we're gonna probably do something special on Friday. Say hi, babe. It's going. This is a special opportunity. This is a special moment. You know, we don't always. There's many people in this COVID-19 pandemic that don't get to have another birthday. So it's special, and you are special.
I'm truly blessed. No question about it. I'm truly blessed.
So wish Morgan a happy birthday.
It's all good. It's all good.
Yeah. And since you're on, babe, before we get into our breathing, sure. I do want you to help me share what our new programming is going to look like. We are moving into the states opening up gradually, and that's why we're talking about anticipatory anxiety today. However, as we know, this quarantine is not going to last forever. Some people are still sheltered in place and some people are not. Some people are moving out. And so we're going to take the week off next week to retool our programming and to figure out what makes sense. And then we're going to be putting together guests that will be coming on the show. We're also going to be doing it from Monday through Thursday. So all next week will be off, right? And really working on tooling up for coming back. And we will come back Memorial Day, which is May 25th. So can you share more about what your thoughts are, babe?
You just said it all, babe.
So this was kind of your idea.
I know, but you asked me to say it, then you said it. So I don't know what you want to add to.
What do you want to add to?
Nothing to add to. You said it right. I mean, we're going to take a week off to retool, regroup, do some things differently. We're going to come back the week after, starting Monday, and it'll be a 4-day show, not a 5-day show. It'll be Monday through Thursday. We'll take off Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and come back on Monday. That's what we're going to do. This, like I just said, took on a life of its own. We just started the program, just trying to give a voice and create the environment to have a healthy conversation or a safe space to have that courageous conversation during this pandemic. We know that people around the world are really being impacted, affected by it greatly on a negative space, if you will. And so we wanted to give you the opportunity to really dialogue with RG, to express yourselves, share your thoughts, start the day off right, and for RG to give you some of her wonderful tips, as you know she always does. We know that she's on TV all the time, national media, local media, radio, et cetera, but everybody doesn't get a chance to see that, and then we kind of repost things. So we had been always talking about creating a show, and, out of a negative or out of some tragic situations, good things happen. And we believe that this is one of those good things that have come out of the pandemic, which is the show. So it's the Ask Dr. RG Courageous Conversation Connect space. We call it the Quarantine Talk series, and then we'll have other series going on from there. We would just ask you, as I mentioned to you yesterday, it's important that you guys share. And also in the message box, not the chat box, the message box, type in subscribe. Again, this is an opportunity for you guys to be able to be notified when RG's has any appearances. We're going to be having workshops, webinars, master classes. There's going to be a lot of great things happening and coming soon. So we want you guys to be a part of the crew. For those who don't know what a crew is, basically it's an acronym. We call it Connecting Relationships for Epic Win. These are people connecting relationships for epic win. That's what crew stands for. Connecting relationships for epic win. What you to win. That's what we want you guys to win in your relationships. All right. So that's pretty much it, guys. So please tag your friends, your family, let them all know what's going on over here. This will be a good space for you guys to be able to talk about all things as relates to relationships. But again, it won't just be relationships. I mean, we're going to cover a lot of different things, a lot of different topics that you have some interest in. Okay, so that's basically it, babe.
Thank you, babe. I appreciate it. Yes.
Thanks for the birthday wishes.
All right, guys. So I just wanted to let you know what was going on. I know that we had one day this week where I didn't come and people were a little bit worried when we didn't have the show on. I think that was Tuesday. And it was really, I was just working on some other projects and I needed to work straight through. So we do apologize for that and appreciate you all's concern. BG texted me, he's like, are you okay? I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. But I don't take that lightly. I don't take lightly when people care about you, when they care enough to reach out. We talked about this week, sending a random act of kindness. BJ got the acronym for SLACK, SLACK, right? For those of you who were just signing on that you didn't know what SLACK meant, she got the win for that with SLACK, which is how you're showing up, and then how you leading in the midst of any kind of crisis. Are you acknowledging how far you come and how far someone else has come and what you actually are doing in the moment to not just survive, but thrive? Are you committed to the full process, the overall process to finishing it or to growing through this and coming out on the other side better than you were before you went into it? And then finally, are you just kind? Are we being kind to ourselves, and are we being kind to each other? So that's what SLACK stands for. And we are excited about what we're putting together, about the various guests that we're going to be having on the show for you guys, and about just continuing to expand. The only way we can do that is if you share and let other people know that we're on. So we're counting on you to do that. Good morning, Michelle and Megan. Thank you for joining as well. BJ and Tanya are on, and hopefully Allison and our crew and IG, our IG family is on as well. So before we get into the real conversation about how to deal with anticipatory anxiety, let's get into our positions for breathing, right? So we, as Morgan always says, men don't wiggle. So men loosen up and women kind of wiggle your bodies. He says men don't wiggle. Okay, whatever. So women, we can loosen our bodies and we get into our breathing. We know we put in the chat who we're breathing for so that we're all connected. I am still breathing for the essential workers out there. I do have some anxiety. We're going to talk about that with what's going on in terms of opening back up. And I wonder if those essential workers are going to be more in harm's way when they're out there, because we are moving out of, in some ways, pacing ourselves layered out of this quarantine. So I'm praying for those folks. I'm also am breathing for them and breathing for those persons who may have lost loved ones due to COVID-19 or have loved ones in the hospital, and they can't necessarily advocate for them in the same way that they would normally do. Okay, so we are breathing for those, or at least I am. You tell me who you're breathing for along with yourself. When we breathe in through our nose, we breathe out through our mouth, we hold it for 10 seconds. We're breathing in oxygen and we're breathing out carbon dioxide. We're also breathing in hope, love, peace, happiness, serenity, contentment, and we're breathing out fear, worry, anxiety, disappointment, frustration, all those things that do not keep us grounded, okay? So let's steady ourselves, get our footing, if we will. I was watching Savannah Guthrie on TV, and she was doing some yoga, and she was saying that her yoga teacher said, get your footing right. And I thought that was a wonderful metaphor for lots of different scenarios. We've got to kind of get grounded, if you will, get our footing right. So let's do it. At the sound of my voice, we're going to put our thumbs together, right, with our middle finger, or your hands like this on your lap or to the side. And when I count to 3, you with me, IG family, Facebook family, YouTube family. 1, 2, 3. Breathe in. And out. Ooh, that was a big one, right? If you can't do 10 seconds, do 5. Breathe in. out. Breathe in through the nose. And out. Breathe in. And out. Last one, make it count, guys. Big breath. Breathe in. And out. That felt good. Did you feel your belly expand when you were breathing in and letting all that carbon dioxide and negative thoughts and messaging out? Continue to do that throughout the day. Megan says breathing. She was breathing for herself because I haven't watched the news, but I am anxious as someone who contracts with other states. Gotcha. Thank you, Megan, for sharing, number one, that you have some anxiety and what that actually means. We're going to be talking about that throughout the show. Tamara says what she has, her name is on her Facebook page, is Zora Hudson Green, but it's Tamara. Breathing for my African-American son and all the young Black boys, safety in the streets, for safety in the streets of Philadelphia. Awesome. Yes. So proud of Miles, your son, and many of the other young, doing the darn thing. And there's so many other men, young men, Black men, that are out there in harm's way. Often, we did talk about that. What does it mean to wear a mask? Typically, we're being asked to wear a face covering. There was some new information that came out yesterday, which I'm not surprised that if you're talking and the persons that are talking louder, there's more droplets that get spread and that they can kind of hang in the air for up to, I think that they said 8 minutes or something like that. And so therefore, like, you could be talking and then move your space and somebody walks past you and these droplets are in the air, which is why they want you to have the face coverings or the mask, which they didn't say to us in the very beginning. But this is a novel virus and they're saying that they're learning along the way. And so we have to figure out how to be responsible for ourselves, for our own beings. And simultaneously, as we're responsible for ourselves, then we help other people, right? But that requires a lot of discipline. It requires some determination. It requires our due diligence to honor these physical distancing measures, even when we're going out. But that doesn't mean that we have to be socially distant. We can still stay connected. It doesn't mean that we have to be psychologically distant or emotionally distant or isolated. Right? We can still stay connected on these platforms or the phone, or I think that there was this platform, this app, it's called House Party. My bonus son, I think, is on there, and that's the first time that I heard it a couple of years ago, but they're using it a lot more now to connect with each other within a context. So this is really, really important when we're thinking about how this country is opening back up. I want us to begin by having the conversation about how you're making a difference, even in the midst of perhaps being anxious, right? Tanya's on, Michelle's on. Thank you for joining. Megan, how are you making a difference? This is from Courageous Conversations Connect. If you haven't got it, you can get it at drrgconnects.com. And periodically I read from here. This one that I'm reading from this week is called The Gift of Life, right? That's the week that I'm reading from. It's week 4. And the call to action, you all know I give you a courageous conversation to have and then a call to action, and then you can journal your courageous action. So the call to action is, are you guilty of focusing on the negative aspects of your life? If so, are you open to a new paradigm shift by taking all the lessons learned from your past mistakes and harnessing them as an opportunity to share, love, give, and enjoy your life with human touch points? Underscore that, human touch points. Well, I go on to ask people to list your mistakes and what you've learned from them. Then make a list of the ways to use those lessons as gifts to help someone else. By doing this, you simply make a decision to give humanity the best gift you have to offer, you. Remember, what you put out into the universe will not return void. Embrace your best life now in abundance, right? You're the gift. Have you, I don't know, let's talk about this, but are you guilty of focusing on all the negative aspects? What in the midst of this pandemic, during this quarantine, have you focused on? Because that has a lot to do with our energy. What's your story? Are you harnessing all of the mistakes, or are you taking those mistakes that you made in the very beginning when we didn't know a whole lot about this virus and we still don't know? And are you utilizing those to help others? And what are the human touch points? Olivia OB says, I'm open. I want to change so bad for myself and for those around me. Thank you, Olivia. We call her OB. Morgan's in the background saying OB. I don't say it like that, right? Morgan, he's the guy that has like all of that kind of energy, which is why we, I guess, get along so well, right? We're opposites in some ways. But OB says she's open because she really wants to change. How many of you all can agree with her that, this has been a time of us allowing ourselves to be more open and more vulnerable to move into a changed place, a paradigm shift? Megan says, I used to be negative. It was all I knew. Then at a retreat, I learned about reparent. Is it or repentant? Reparent. I learned about reparent myself, and that changed my life. Oh, wow. You learned that at a retreat. That's awesome. When people are negative, I often think that they're just injured, that the negativity is coming from an injurious place inside their minds, their hearts, and their spirits. And we've heard the saying, hurt people, right? And so it requires of us to go deep and begin to peel back those layers like the layers of an onion, begin to understand where the injury is and where we're being triggered and why it is that we're doing and saying what we're doing to ourselves or to other people, so that we can then recalibrate, right? Megan talks about reparenting, learning to reparent self. If it's your parent that didn't give you what you needed, or some guardian, or if you were injured, or if you were even having, been abused, you can begin the process of healing and then begin the process of moving to a healthier place. Tanya says, love human touch points. I also heard the phrase is be high touch instead of high tech. Interesting. I haven't heard that, Tanya, high touch versus high tech. Interesting. There is a new term that's out called that people are talking about with regards to physical touch hunger. And I'm wondering if there are ways in which, as we are continuing to elevate, right? We talked about doubling down on leveling up yesterday, elevate our connections in this space of social media so that we can have these human touch points. Does it have to be physical touch? We do need physical touch, but if we don't have it, right? What I said is if we don't have other folks to touch us, what keeps us from touching ourselves? What keeps us from giving ourselves a big hug like this, right? And telling ourselves how much we love ourselves. This is about having a love affair with ourselves, having a like affair with ourselves. I tend to believe that if we don't love and like ourselves, it's going to be really, really hard to love and like other people. So I love the high touch points versus tech points. I love the human touch points. And those human touch points are, what are we doing to lift each other up? What are we doing to be dream lifters? Do you have a dream? Did you have something that you had always wanted to do, but hadn't had time or hadn't taken the time, or perhaps you hadn't believed in yourself enough that you could do it? Well, what's your story? We want to hear the stories of everyone who's winning now. What are your wins? This is 9 weeks in, guys. 9 weeks. Now, that doesn't mean that if you've not done anything, that it's too late, because delayed does not mean denied. But if you actually have made a difference, if you actually have moved the needle, and I'm not talking about huge steps, I'm just talking about baby steps. If you move from being fearful to learning something about yourself or your family to growing, then let's celebrate that so that we can move from a place of being very anxious to less anxious. Michelle says, yes, learning to love ourselves is important. Very good. Absolutely. Right. I tend to think, now, you all know I've been doing this work for a really long time as a therapist, right? And so oftentimes when people are talking about what they want in a relationship or what they want in a friendship, or they want what they want from persons that they're engaged with, I often think that some of that is coming from their own deficit because they haven't learned to give it to themselves. Because the things that we want outside of our own being are usually the things that if we actually do the work, we find that those things are resonant right inside ourselves. That too often we're looking on the outside for the things that we already have dwelling on the inside. Let me say that again. Too often we look for things on the outside, right? That love, that care, that support, that affirmation, that understanding. And quite frankly, we already have those things dwelling on the inside of ourselves. And if we tap in, remember last week we talked about what are we tapping into? If we tap into those things, if we tap into our love for ourselves, our understanding of ourselves, our affirming of ourselves, if we tap into nurturing ourselves, learning to like ourselves, really giving ourselves permission to be free from all that negative energy and those negative messages so that we can double down to level up on that positive energy, what we will find is that those external messages, those external affirmations or validations, we won't need that as much. So that if we do get it, it's great. It's icing on the cake. But if we don't get it, that's okay too, because we are hugging ourselves like human touch points. We are loving on ourselves. We are liking on ourselves, and we're affirming ourselves. So what are you tapping into, right, inside, so that you can then tap out? The tap out is how are you showing the external world what it is that you have on the inside? How are you connecting? Megan says, hubby and I paid off $120K in student loans, and people ask us how. We've shared our budget and given tips. People are seeing that they can do it too. Ooh, well, first of all, Megan, congratulations on that. That is a feat, right? And to be able to then share that, that's the tapping in, knowing what you're made of and what you can do, and then tapping out and sharing it. Don't hoard it. Share it with others, because what you put out in the universe is what you come back. So congratulations on that. Tamara says, I made a baby step of disconnecting from all electronic devices and social media for at least 7 hours on Fridays, noon to 7 p.m. And I spend that time with God and myself. It has been so nice. That really, Tamara, that sounds like a big step. That doesn't even sound like a baby step, right? To do that on Fridays and then give that time to God, to commune with him in a way that allows you to be freer. Because social media is great, but what we know is that we can actually end up doing too much in anything. Anything in excess sometimes becomes too much. And it can harm us versus helping us. So congratulations on making a commitment to do that for yourself. What we find is that we are taking better care of ourselves. And I want to hear how you from everyone else that's listening, how are you taking care of yourselves? What is it that you're doing that is helping you to reduce your anxiety? This whole anticipatory, I don't know if you've heard the term. Let us know. Give us a thumbs up, a smiley face, a heart. Let us know if you've heard this term, anticipatory anxiety, before. Also share this. Of course, you all know I want you to share this for other people to get this information. But anticipatory anxiety is when a person increases their level of anxiety by thinking about an event or situation in the future. So it hasn't happened yet. Right? So rather than being a specific disorder, this is related to generalized anxiety that then gets elevated when we're anticipating what's going to happen that hasn't happened yet. Right? So what have you been anticipating that has elevated your anxiety? I know for sure that with people going back out into the community, I'm now anticipating more people getting sick. And that's been elevating my anxiety. I also anticipate perhaps myself or my husband or my family getting sick because I don't want us to go so far back to February or March where the death levels or the cases of this virus started elevating. So that's what I've been anticipating, and I'm trying to work on reducing my anxiety about that. Tanya says healing from the inside, tapping into our nurturing of positive is so important. Thank you for sharing this today. Thank you, Tanya. Yeah, it is important. And guess what? As we heal from the inside, as we tap into nurturing ourselves, we also move out not only positive energy, but we extricate, right? Externalize the negative energy so it's not residing inside of us. That then creates more space for the flow, the vibration, the paradigm shift on the inside. And you actually start feeling better. The same way that if you start hydrating, you ever notice when you're dehydrated and you need water? You start feeling better from the inside out. Your skin looks better. It looks clearer. Your eyes look whiter. You feel more hydrated. It's the same thing with these other things like the negative messages. If you put garbage in, garbage will go out. Negative messages in, negative messages out. Positive messages in, tap in, right? Positive messages out. Tamara says, never heard the term, but I have experienced this saying, I'm afraid of getting sick, going back to work, and my finances if I won't get back or if I don't get back. So those are fears. They're real, right? And the thing about fears is that we have to acknowledge them first. But as my good friend Jean Austin Jefferson says, fear and faith can never reside in the same space. So as we honor our fears, if we say, okay, I've got some anxiety about this, whether it's going back to work or whether it's getting sick or whether it's not having finances, all that's real. So we could acknowledge it, maybe even journal about it, but we can't stay paralyzed by it. So then we have to do what I call thought substitution, right? It's to take the fear, the idea of what you think might happen, that anticipatory anxiety, and then create a different thought that is more congruent with what's the here and now. So the fear of what the future is yet to be here yet, but what's present is that you're healthy. What's present is that you are in a space that's safe, right? Not stuck at home, safe at home. What's present is that you have the ability to move forward right now. You're breathing, right? There's an opportunity every single day to make your day count because we're breathing, we're here. So focusing on the here and now can really help. There's a few other things that I think can help. So I want to give you this acronym. You all know I'm good with acronyms. So the acronym is FOCUS, FOCUS. This is a way to reduce your anxiety about worry, fear, the uncertainty of the future. F stands for focus on what is controllable. What can you control versus what you can't control? You've heard the term, control the controllables. O, organize your space, the space in your head, the space in your environment, so that when you're going out, you can come back to that safe, organized space. So that's what O stands for. C is change your expectations to what's doable versus what's not doable. Because sometimes what happens is we get so elevated based on what we can't do or what's not going to happen. And that hasn't gotten here yet. So change your expectations will be helpful. You utilize internal and external resources. That's what we were talking about in terms of tapping in. Sometimes what we don't realize is that we have everything we need on the inside that will help us to manage our anxiety on the outside. We just have to tap into that. So utilize your internal resources. And then if you've got external resources like a therapist, for example, or a spiritual advisor or accountability partner, it's Friday. So, we did goal setting early on Monday, and Friday, we sort of tap into each other to see how we've done with our goal setting. So tap into those resources, utilize those resources. And finally, S, stay in the present as much as possible. If you are not staying in the present, oftentimes we're in the past or we're all the way in the future. And the thing about that is when we have anxiety about the future, it may or may not happen. So we may get all riled up, and it actually impacts our parasympathetic nervous system that throws everything off with regards to the chemicals and the hormones that are flowing throughout our body. So we have the power to reduce that anxiety, which then reduces those particular chemicals. And then taking a walk or doing yoga, meditation, all those kind of things can help. But stay in the present, stay in the mindfulness state of what you have to be grateful for at that time. Charlotte says, I'm concerned about people in a hurry to get out and getting sick. Absolutely. That's a viable concern. It's a reasonable concern. But go back. I want you guys to go back to the F part of focus, right? What can you control? That when we're concerned about other people, which we know, right? One thing's for sure, two for certain, we cannot control other people. So we can only control ourselves and what we can do to keep ourselves safe and healthy. If that means that we stay home, then we stay home in order to stay well, in order to stay safe, and quite frankly, in order to stay alive. And if there are other people that are not willing, the best thing that we can do is pray for them, arm them if they're our loved ones with the information. That's what I've been doing for these 9 months, or really, it was like 9 months, 9 weeks. It does feel like, doesn't it feel like 9 months? This is what I've been doing for these 9 weeks. I've been trying to arm our crew, Morgan and I, with information, a safe space to process this. And sometimes you have to then accept what you can't do and then double down and level up on what you can do. So arming folks with information and then doing your due diligence, being determined, being committed, right? Being disciplined. This long haul that we are on, this marathon, not a sprint, it absolutely requires discipline. And because the weather, when the weather's nice, people want to go out. We're going to go through the Memorial Day. People are going to want to be on the beach. Do your due diligence to be disciplined and determined to get through the other side. So that's focus. That's what we're doing to reduce our anxiety. We're going to take a quick break from our sponsors. We're going to be right back. Think about your story. Tell us what you're doing to stay focused and reduce your anxiety. We'll be right back. And I think this is a way to help. So this is Dr. RG. I am here. We're back with our Courageous Conversations Connect space where we're having our quarantine talks. And just before the break, we were talking about focusing the focus to reduce our anxiety and how that can help us to prevent perhaps the anticipatory anxiety if we stay with our thought substitutions and tap into the internal resources that we already have. Mona, is it Mona? Mona? Okay, I hope I'm saying that, and please forgive me if I'm not saying that correctly. But she says, I like focus and acceptance. I have learned that over the years, I can only change me, not others. Absolutely. And that's a hard lesson to learn. It really is. I do believe that sometimes we want more for others than they want for themselves. And other times we have to accept people for who they are and who they are not. In the midst of a crisis, sometimes people become more of who they are. So if people were like rule breakers, let's say, before a crisis, they're just going to level up on being a rule breaker. If people adhere to the rules, if they try to do their very best before, they'll probably do that even more. Conversely, or in addition to that, I should say, if people were caring and loving before, they're probably going to level up and do the necessary things to support other people. But quite frankly, there are some selfish people out there, right? We know them, right? There are more sometimes takers than givers. And if there are persons that are only thinking about themselves, the one thing that this pandemic and this quarantine has taught us is that in order to stay connected, we had to abide by staying physically disconnected. And the physical distancing, if you will, was really a way to show our love and our care for the people that we did not want to harm, because we do know that there are what they're calling super spreaders, or those persons that are asymptomatic that are carrying or spreading this virus unbeknownst to themselves. And how do you know? That's the dangerous part about this. It'd be one thing if like some of the other pandemics that we had, or epidemics that we had, these viruses where it was, I think, Ebola and maybe SARS and H1N1, where the person had to really get sick and then they were spreading, especially with Ebola. But in this particular case, you just don't know. You may be walking around not knowing that you have it and be asymptomatic and spreading it to someone else, or someone else may be walking around thinking that they're fine and they have it and spread it to you. So wear your face covering when you go out. Do the necessary things. Wear your gloves. Wash your hands. Do the physical or social distancing. Keep yourself 6 feet apart. Is it 6 feet apart, babe? 6 feet. Yeah, 6 feet or 12. More than 12, because they said when you're talking, you're spreading more of these droplets, and especially if you talk loud or,
Just put your mask on, because really it's hard to stay. I went out yesterday and very few people are 6 feet, let alone 12 feet.
Yeah,
think, I just think people have resigned themselves to the fact that, you know what, there is a risk in life
Come on.
that I must take. And so I think people have resigned themselves that there's a certain level of risk that they are willing to take in this whole situation. And so I went out yesterday.
Back a little bit, Dave. Push it back a little bit so we're going to see your whole face. Back a little bit.
Okay.
There we go. Right there. Yes, perfect.
All right, there you go. All right. See, again, environment. Control everything. Okay. I'm the producer, not her. But anyway, it's all good. It's okay. It's okay. Anywho. But no, I just think that there's that term I keep mentioning and keep trying to ask Archie to kind of engage you guys on, this thing called herd immunity. And what that is, in essence, is that as a society, we just aren't used to being confined and being controlled and not being able to go out and do whatever we want to do, whether it's visit family, friends, just have fun, take a run, shop, go visit our favorite eateries, stand in long lines at Starbucks. I mean, this is our culture. And so for everybody to be out there for 5, 6, 7, 8 weeks, people just had enough. So I think at this point, the numbers are showing that it's more like an 80-20% kind of a deal. I don't know exactly what numbers are accurate. I'm not in a statistician.
80% of people will get it and resolve.
80% will get it. How do you know they have to go through the process, asymptomatic, and get over it? So
but what if you're months of the 20?
And then there's 20% that don't get it and have some level of severity in terms of how they're impacted by it. Again, some will have a quick hospital stay, come out fine. Some people will have this long, process. And unfortunately, as we know, the numbers are high that many of us will perish.
Well, over 80,000 people
exactly
have perished just in the United States. And that's in less than 2 months.
But remember, I've been saying this all along. When they came out, the pundits, and we know who leadership or administration is, came out saying things like, I'm looking at this from a warlike mentality. When they say that, that basically means in that warlike mentality, there is an acceptable number of deaths, casualties of war is what they call that. That means they realize, hey, we're going to war, and we know there's a certain number of people that's going to die. And we're ready to accept that number. It's unfortunate, but that's the reality of how people are looking at it. And, this is a capitalist society. So we're not easing our way back into this. There's arguments, and you look at the pundits and the news that have their fair share of what they think should be right. I think it's just an unfortunate situation. And we can go on and on about this. I don't want to go on about this. But the bottom line is, we know that the right or wrong way. And right now, we're experiencing the wrong way. And that's just what it is. So that's just my 2 cents.
Thanks, babe. So, as Morgan said, as I interpret what he said, we have to make a decision for ourselves. And, it's really up to us. There isn't some anxiety about that. I do know that none of us are built, he's right, to stay in the house. We don't live in a part of the world where when we go out, we feel, well, we do live in a part of the world. Sometimes when we go out, we feel like that we're on attack, especially for many Black and brown people living in urban communities, if you will. And we won't get into the deeper part of the conversation, but, there's been a very vast kinds of disparities and inequities in terms of persons in the community. And more recently, Ahmaud Arbery, who, got shot and was just running. He wasn't bothering anyone. And shot and killed, by the way. So we do have some disparities about how we're treated in the world. And so whether it's the COVID-19 or whether it's the gun violence in the community or whether it's being racially profiled, we need to, some of us, if we're able to, raise our voices, speak up for what we believe is right, and then do the right thing, which is, in my estimation, trying to be as careful and as cautious as you possibly can in your community, even if the weather is nice. The weather, I call it weapons of mass distraction, because it will distract us from our mission, which is to stay safe and to grow through this and be on the other side of this virus. Charlotte says, no, we aren't used to it. The weather is going to cause people to go out. It will. It absolutely will, Charlotte, cause people to go out. All I'm saying is that go out safely if you do go out, and be mindful of the places and spaces that you actually do. You can actually choose to go to a park, perhaps that is not widely utilized, and perhaps like, here we have in Philadelphia, we have the Fairmount Park, and there's all beautiful parts of the Fairmount Park. So you can go to the places that are highly populated, or you can go to the more serene places where you can keep your social distance. So go out and get your vitamin C and your fresh air and do some vitamin D. Vitamin D. You do need C too. But, go out and get the vitamin D from the sun and the fresh air. Just do it safely. Wear your gloves, wear your mask. Don't shame people who don't wear theirs. Try to lead by example, if you will, which I think has more credence than blaming and shaming people. Tamara says exactly. That's why I said pray for our African-American boys, right? And our African-American boys, and pray for all of us. Like, we really do need to do, I believe, a better job of the human touch points, as I call them. How are we praying for ourselves? How are we leading? Mahatma Gandhi says we must be the change we wish to see in others. So how are we tapping into all of the parts that are good inside of us and connecting with the universe and putting out those positive vibrations with the others that we're connected to? And right now, it's the connection through social media. It's connection through FaceTiming. What random act of kindness can you do for someone today? Is there a positive message that you can send to someone? Are you telling yourself positive messages? Are you doubling down to level up on your own self-love and your own self-care? Are you working hard to reduce your own anxiety by reframing your thoughts and your mindset and rechanneling your energy, right? Those positive thoughts, so that you can redirect your mind to move and to recalibrate to be more positive. We have the choices, right? Many of us, we can choose to stay in our negative places and be paralyzed by fear, right? Or we can choose to move to a more positive space where fear doesn't define us, right? I always say, for the acronym of fear, we can either face everything and remain, or forget everything and forget everything and run, right? But the fear, we can't allow even the anticipatory fear of going out there to paralyze us. We have to live our lives. Some of us have to go to the grocery store and the pharmacy and go to the bank or the post office. For all of us, we've got to get to some normalcy, but we can determine what that sense of normalcy is. And by the way, we can create the normalcy within our own spaces and places. This is what I was talking about before when we talk about that focus. And the O part of focus is organizing. Organize your space. Organize the outside of your, if you have a place that you can be on the outside, whether it be small or big, create the serenity within the context of the spaces that you already have and start appreciating them. I asked yesterday, what had we, and I'm still interested for those of you who are on today that may not have been on yesterday, what did you take for granted 9 weeks ago that you realize you can't take for granted now? Was it your children? Was it your health? Was it your own internal, security? Was it that you took for granted that you have running water and a bed to sleep in and food to eat, or that you have friends that care about you? Did you take for granted that you had a job? Like, there are lots of people that are now saying that they don't like the whole concept of one Zoom meeting after the next Zoom meeting and after the next Zoom meeting. But what I would say to them is that if you got a Zoom meeting for a job, that means you have a job. What about the people who have lost their jobs? So there's always somebody that may not be doing as well as you, which causes us to think about, well, what is it that we need to be grateful for? And when you land on the place of gratitude and begin to have an attitude of gratitude, that changes your whole atmosphere. It resets the temperature, if you will, on your in your spirit, mind, body, and spirit, and then allows you to sort of go forth with a different perspective on life. Quite frankly, Charlotte says we have to choose positive. Choosing. There's a book, I don't have it down here, that my pastor wrote years ago. The name of it is, I think, Enjoy the Journey, if you will. And I always think that we have the difference between, we have the opportunity to either choose joy or choose positivity or choose not to be joyful or positive. Charlotte also says, thanks for encouraging us. Thank you. Listen, this is a reciprocal relationship here, right? So as we, Morgan and I, encourage you, please know that you all are encouraging us. Please know that we are in this together, that we have developed this movement of our crew, connecting relationships for epic wins. And just like we look forward, you look forward to us being here, we look forward to you. You give us life and energy as well. OB says, I give thanks that I am still able to work and getting paid still as well. That is something to be grateful for. And she says, all glory goes to him each day, giving thanks and praising God and recognizing that each day it doesn't have to go this way. We don't necessarily have to be here as, hey, oh my goodness, Esther! We are in this together. Hey, Esther, my soror in the house. I don't know if you can see that, right? We love
girl?
you.
How you doing?
We love you. And
how's my man Harper doing? Yeah,
you got to reach out to Harper, babe.
Yeah.
Esther's about to celebrate her birthday soon, so shout out. We need to celebrate. We're supposed to be in the DR, but that will happen. Eventually, it will happen, and when it happens, we are going to have a blast. Esther reminds me of what I don't believe I've taken for granted, but if we love you, if there's anything that I have really began to understand in this last 9 weeks is the power of friendship. My friends, quite frankly, have become my family. They also, many of my friends that either I went to school with or met after school. I met Esther through my amazing friend Monique Purnell Pfeiffer, who had transitioned. She's no longer here, but I praise God that she introduced me to some amazing people that are still friends of mine today. And so I don't take that lightly. I don't take that when we speak life to each other and lift each other up, that we have a friendship that not only lasts for a season, but it's a lifetime friendship. So thank you, Esther, for hopping on and reminding me that I have such good, amazing people in my life, even during this time of crisis. Tanya says, my win is I watch positive news about COVID-19 example shows and news recognizing the real heroes that are giving to others first and helping others. That's good. That's good, Tanya. Because sometimes the news, we've been saying, be careful about the news and not watching it all the time. But there can be a spin on that, because if you watch some of the positive stories of those frontliners, those essential workers, those persons that are actually thriving or surviving COVID-19 and coming out of the hospital. And by the way, some of those are volunteers. They're volunteering their plasma so that they can get their antibodies. And I heard a story yesterday about a woman who was able to use the antibodies of another person who had survived COVID-19, and instantly in a day, she started feeling better. So they're working hard on coming up with the treatments for this. We still need the testing in certain communities. Of course, our Black Doctors COVID-19 Consortium is still out there with Dr. Ayla Stanford and our pastor, Pastor Marsha Mitchell. They're still out there on the front lines, but we need more testing. We need more contact tracing, and we need more treatment. So we are going to take a quick break from our sponsors, and then we're going to be right back. So stay with us as we begin to wrap up on our Friday morning. Stay with us. You want to come in too? Yeah. Hey guys. So this is Dr. RG here, and for the Courageous Conversations Connect space, and this is your quarantine talks. I wanted Morgan to come in and one with me, because this is a dual effort. We do this together. Who does a lot of behind the scenes stuff, and then keeps me steady, keeps me together on these
Let me produce.
He does a good job. He does a great job, quite frankly, of producing. And again, we didn't start this with the mindset that we would be 9 weeks in. We too, just like everybody else, thought that we would be doing this for a couple of weeks, and we were like, what can we do to give to the community and create a safe space? We think that we have done that, and we believe that your energy tells us that every single morning. And now we're 9 weeks in. We're going to take a break, and I want Morgan to share with you what's going to happen for those of you who just came on, and then when we're coming back, tooled up and ready to go. But thank you so much for just coming aboard and being a part of our crew. We love you so much. Morgan?
So yeah, I mean, like I said earlier, this show has taken on a life of its own. Out of pain comes purpose, as RG always says. And so out of this pain of the pandemic, quarantine that we're experiencing, the purpose is this show. We felt it necessary to come on to create a platform, and this StreamYard platform that you're experiencing, this broadcast, is somewhat of a way we've been working towards trying to create RG's own show anyway. So here we have an opportunity to do it on our own, organically, if you will. So we're going to retool this week. We're going to take off this week. When we come back
next week.
Next week. Mm-hmm. So this is the last show until the following,
which Monday. Will be back Memorial Day.
Exactly correct. And from there, we're going to have a 4-day show: Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And we're going to be off Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And then during that weekend tech period, we'll have a lot of different things that'll be posted on the Ask Dr. RG page. So a couple things I want to remind you guys to do. It's very important. Please share. Tell all your family and friends, whether they're close friends or Facebook friends. We know what that's all about, right? But tell them all about it. Tell them what's happening. This is the Courageous Ask Dr. RG Courageous Conversation Connect Space. Quarantine Talks is the series, but then there'll be other series coming forward. We're going to have special guests on the show in the following week. It's going to be pretty cool, okay? This is a whole new, fresh format of how we approach this thing. So we are open to ideas and suggestions from the crew. You guys are people who are interested in, I can't get it right now, connecting relationships for epic win. Connecting relationships for epic win. People who want to win in their relationships with spaces in their communities, in their lives. That's what we're really interested in doing. Okay. So again, tell everybody what's going on, tell everybody what's happening, share, invite them to like the page. Also, again, on this page, we're asking you to go to the comment section, okay? The message box, and type in subscribe in the message box. Again, you can get a notification about what's going on, what's happening, and this is a way for you guys to register, to subscribe, to become part of the crew. The crew gets special things, okay? Special things you guys will get that everybody else will not be getting, okay? So it's almost like a Patreon kind of a deal. But then again, this is free. This is not a, you don't pay for it just yet. Okay. I don't know. You might have to pay for some stuff at some point. Okay. Like you can't do all this for free. Okay. But no, seriously, we really need you guys to support us.
Husband a capitalist.
And that's real. That's really real. And we're just having fun. I love my wife. Yeah,
I love you too, babe.
Right? And hey, listen, guys, enjoy. Be safe out there. We know that this country is starting to open up and get back in the flow of things. We will not be what we were. This is a new normal. The new normal may mean different things for everybody. Everybody's not going to just jump back in the pool. You know, some people ease their way in. Some people going to dip their toe in. You know, so people wearing masks, people not wearing masks. And we mentioned it earlier, there are people out there who will be doing mask shaming. You know. All right, so I can say a whole lot about that. You know,
don't mask shame.
No judgments on me.
Yeah, don't mask shame.
I'm not going to judge you if you choose to wear a mask, and don't judge if somebody does not choose to wear a mask. It is what it is. It is what it is. You know, and you know, and we're going to have to create what the new normal is. But again, just be safe. We love you guys. Thank you for hanging in there. Those core, you guys are our core supporters. You know who you are. You continue to show us love every morning. You're here, and I mean, you know, it's, you know, just so you know, RG, and we're still running practice every day, seeing clients every day, 5 to 6 days a week. You know, so behind the scenes, I'm doing all this other work, everything else. So, you know, it's a big push. We had some weeks where we really said, we want to continue this, you know what I mean? But you guys, the faithful, you guys could not let you down. We wanted to make sure we were consistently, because we realized, you know what, people are really enjoying this. People need this. And, you know, there's people who are watching through your watch parties or other way, and that, not just that, when it's a live broadcast, but then it's posted and it continues to live on. So we are getting, you know, lots of views. I look at the analytics. I mean, it's amazing how many people will review it, you know, even after it's been posted. So there's a voice. There's a place for this. And we want to continue to give it. So support us in that. Please, again, on the message box, type in subscribe. And we love you guys. We'll see you back on Memorial Day, right?
Yep, May 25th, we will be back on Memorial Day, and we'll be all tooled up and ready to go. So thank you so much. We love you. Have a beautiful Friday and weekend on purpose from our heart to yours.